All right, everybody, time for my final opinion and review on these 93A soft sliders by Spitfire. I am clearly not a professional skater, was not sent these wheels for free. Did purchase both those, the classics, and these, the radials, with my own money. Spent about $100, including shipping and taxes, to see if they stack up to the Dragons and how I feel about them. All right, boys and girls. Trying to give a true apples to apples comparison on these different wheels everybody's been reviewing, including myself. You know, we got the newest one, which is of course the Spitfire 93A. A lot of people have been comparing it to the Dragon because that is supposed to be 93A as well, but we'll get to that as far as what is actually 93A and what isn't. We also of course have the very popular Bones X97s, and for this test I'm going to also add the Spitfire 97A formula just to compare it to the 93As. So let's see how they all stack up. First, let's go with the Dragons, a very conical type shape. These are 56 millimeters, so they're a little bit on the bigger side. It's actually my son's board. He rides it to school, so he needs a nice soft wheel. But for the sake of this test, let's start with the Dragons, since that's the one that started this whole thing. Already always sounds a little soggier and softer on the regular asphalt here than a harder wheel does. A little bounce here, of course. So you can't really hear the explanation while I'm skating. So just to let you know, what I said is it's very smooth. Obviously, we all know that the Dragons are great through the rough stuff. Super smooth through here. And no problem over the asphalt that has a little bit of texture to it. All right, next one on the roll test is going to be the X97s. That one came out next. It's supposed to be another good wheel for crusty spots, but maybe not quite as soft as the Dragons. Obviously a higher duro. Obviously sounds a lot harder right off the bat. All right, so when it came to the roll test, obviously we can't hear that on any of these. The 97s are still really smooth through the asphalt, but noticeably harder. They don't absorb the impact quite as much. You're definitely going to get more rattle, but nothing like a traditional wheel, a regular hard 99 or 101 duro. So they're still perfect for curbs. They're still great for crusty spots, but definitely not nearly as smooth as the Dragons are going to be. And rightfully so. Again, they are a harder duro. But I really do like these wheels. They're basically the same, as you know, as the Andy Anderson formula. Those are just going to be a different shape where the bearings are offset. Love those as well. All right, next on the roll test on the asphalt, we're going to do the 93A soft slider Spitfires. Sound a little bit harder. All right, so when it came to the roll test for the 93A soft sliders, the biggest thing that I think we all notice is that they do not feel as soft as the Dragons. They're nice, and they do cut through the rough stuff very well, and in my opinion, better than the X97s. But are they 93s? Do they feel like 93s? They definitely don't feel like the Dragons, but they call them 93s. So we'll see. All right, the next one we're doing on the roll test is the Spitfire 97A. The reason I wanted to add this one to the mix is because, to be quite honest, as I've said, talking about the 93A, it feels much harder than a 93A. It doesn't feel anything like the Dragon. Sounds harder, sounds kind of similar to that, right? So the first thing I noticed when I went to roll on the 97A Spitfire Formula 4s is they're definitely noticeably harder than the 93A soft sliders. For anyone thinking that, okay, these are just Spitfire 97s rebranded, that's not the case. These feel much harder. These are great wheels, but noticeably different than the 93A soft sliders. And of course, I just had to get a few grinds, a couple of slides in, just to really test the wheel out and see what impact it did or didn't have on the minimal tricks that I can do. So here's a couple of those in action. All right, guys. Time to finally bring you the final conclusion and how I feel about these wheels. I actually do like the wheels, but there are some drawbacks. But I've already made a couple of shorts about some of the things that I've noticed, initial impression, some of the way that it's wearing. So definitely take a look at those. They actually helped me do my first true power slide, which wasn't great. I didn't get it on camera, but I did get it full 90 degrees and then back to rolling forward. And I've never been able to do that on any other wheels, and these seem to be a lot easier to figure out at least the technique, so I can continue to work on how to do a power slide. But as far as sliding on an obstacle, doing board slides, no slides, great there too. I think a little bit less resistance than a Dragon. It's pretty much the same as a X97, as you guys will be shocked to hear. I know the comparisons from both myself and a lot of other people to the X97s, this particular formula, the 93A, and they're right, and it feels very, very similar. If you go to dig your nail in, if you bounce, the wheel by itself on the ground, they have a similar response, whereas the Dragons are way bouncier and your nail digs in way more. These are just obviously random dad tests, right? These don't really mean too much as far as the function, but just as far as comparing the difference of the formula of the wheel itself and seeing how it reacts. How does it skate? I'm a fairly inexperienced skater, as you guys know, and I'm still learning how to skate curbs and transition, but I like them a lot. I actually do like the formula a lot. I think the biggest takeaway for me is, while in a lot of ways they feel similar to an X or the Nano Cubics, there's a particular spot in front of a buddy's house that I skate that he and I both tried out both wheels, and the Dragons are much smoother on the rough spot for sure than either wheel, than either the X97s or the Spitfires. But when you start comparing the Spitfire to the Nano Cubic or the X97, the Spitfire to me was noticeably smoother on crusty ground. I have a short here where I showed myself riding it actually in this particular parking lot where it's very crusty, and to me they're definitely noticeably smoother on rough ground, the Spitfire 93As are, compared to the X97s. Everywhere else, I think the X97s wear a little bit better. I think they're pretty much apples to apples in the park and on, regular spots. But when it comes to the crusty spot, I do like the feel and the softness of the 93A better than the X97. So I just want to point that out. That's my main takeaway when it comes to the comparison between those two wheels. The X97s wear better, and the Spitfires feel noticeably softer or better, smoother on very crusty ground. At the park, they feel exactly the same to me. I wouldn't notice the difference. My ultimate conclusion is these are somewhere in between. They're not as soft as the Dragon, even though they're supposed to be the same formula, or same Doro, I should say, not same formula. They're both supposed to be 93A. These are definitely not as soft as the Dragons. As far as the overall feel, I think they're somewhere in between the Dragons and the X97s, and I think they're a very good wheel. To be honest with you, that chunk, it's here. After skating it and the rest of the wheel wearing away a little bit, it's barely noticeable. So, I threw a little bit of heat in that in the short about how it chunked up because I was a little bit bummed out. And I did actually email Deluxe about it just to let them know. But overall, just to give you an update on that, it is barely noticeable and is not affecting the function of the wheel overall. So my ultimate conclusion is I do like the wheels a lot. I don't like that they call them a 93A. It is very noticeably different than the Dragons. They're not the same. Dragons definitely feel softer, bouncier, and stick a little bit more, but feel better as far as rolling through rough spots. You lose a lot more speed in a place like this with Dragons, though, in a skate park where you got smooth ground, whereas these can cut through the rough spots pretty well, and you don't lose nearly as much speed at the skate park or on smooth ground. So overall, I do recommend the wheel. I just think it's weird that they called it a 93A. I think they just wanted to be in the same class or comparison as the Dragons, take some of that market away. And I think they probably should and could earn that spot, but maybe call these a 94A or a 95. I don't know, but anyway, I do like them a lot, and I think I'm going to continue riding them. I like both shapes. This is the first time I've actually tried the classic shape in any Spitfire wheel. I've always gone with a conical or a radial, and I think overall I probably might like the radials better, but I'm trying these out because I feel like they're better for trying power slides. They're better for me trying to learn a little bit more flip tricks, move the board around. So that's why I'm trying to stick to these for now. But anyway, that's my conclusion of how I feel about the Andrew Reynolds Spitfire 93A soft sliders.